Hey, what's up? Let me know if the audio is okay for the microphone. I left the microphone in the bike. So if the waves are too loud, you guys can let me know and I'll go grab that. Yeah, I just got to this beach and I'm ready for any questions you might have. I see we have 3 people on right now. I'm in Montevideo. I'm gonna sit here, eat a sandwich, drink some protein shake, and chat to you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know. What's up, guys? I'm in Uruguay. Get the sandwich. Ready to talk about living abroad. Hey guys, if you're joining me now, I'm in Montevideo. Sunny day. We're at the end of summer. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if the audio is okay. Found a nice spot in the shadow of this palm tree. And yeah, I'm curious about any questions you might have about living abroad, relocating. If you're in the States specifically, I know it's there's a lot of craziness going on, and probably it's making people think about relocating. Even my very close friends from central Minnesota, they're talking about having their plan B. And I thought, well, let's talk about that today. So, having a place to go to when shit hits the fan is always a good idea. There's a lot of people that sell those type of things. People like the nomad capitalists, and they have kind of like these, relocation like businesses, right? I don't have a relocation business, but I do like helping people get informed about Latin America. I've been, living in the majority of Latin America, for the past 5 years driving through, or 3.5 years, but over my entire life, I've lived more than a decade in Latin America. And some people are curious about, living in Montevideo. They're curious about what life is like in many different parts of Latin America. I just posted a video about Bolivia. Doesn't seem like many people are interested in Bolivia, but that's okay. Seems like that's a kind of a less popular place. We got coming to Bali, bro, El Gart. Yeah, I haven't been to Bali. I would like to go to Bali in the future. I lived in Asia. I lived in Vietnam and had a fantastic experience there, but no, I've not been to Bali yet. It is a kind of a digital nomad hub, and it's been exploding for that reason for years. So yeah, I'd like to go there. Are you living there, bro? Are you living in Bali? We got a sandwich, by the way. I'm gonna eat this while we talk. Cost of living here is insane. Cost of living in Uruguay is about 3 times more than Brazil. A sandwich like this would cost like $6 in the supermarket, which is about 2-3 times more than Brazil, and then maybe 6 times more than Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador. The lower cost Latin American countries are about 6 times cheaper, if not up to 10. I just posted a picture that I took yesterday. I bought some cortisone for like a bug bite or like a plant, reaction to a plant when I was doing some recording off in La Paloma here in the coast, and that was a tiny little tube of this medicine. It would cost me $15, and I looked online what would be the price in the US, right? Just to kind of get my bearings. So I think in most Latin America it'd be like $1 or $2, and it was $5 in the US, so it's 15 here, 3 times more in Uruguay to get a standard cream that they actually make here. They actually produce it, and they still charge you 3 times more than the States. It's kind of weird. Christian Minchala, are you in Ecuador? No, I'm in Uruguay. This is Montevideo. This is the capital city of Uruguay. And we're at the end of the summer months, so we got to take advantage of good weather right now. Yeah, it's pretty nice, in the mid 80s in Fahrenheit. So probably high 80s actually. I'm sitting under a palm tree right there. You can see on the beach, eating a sandwich. So yeah, I'm curious if any of you guys are thinking about preparing your plan B, or what you're thinking about the situation in the US. I'm gonna have to slowly move this way because the sun's going down. I don't want to get cooked here, get super cooked. Ugh. There we go. Okay, so I see we have a question here. Christian Machala, how long are you living there for? Christian, I'm staying here until the end of March. I'll be heading back to, well, not back to, since I'm slowly driving south. Actually, the furthest south I'll be this year is probably going to be Buenos Aires. So I'll be going to Buenos Aires, capital of Argentina, end of this month, which is about 2.5 weeks from now. And depending on how things go, I have a lot of interviews arranged there, a lot of people to meet up with in the capital city. They call it Caba, I think, C-A-B-A. So that's my plan for now, is to stay here, maybe arrange a couple more interviews. I have a couple other people I'm meeting up with. And, just kind of enjoy the rest of the summer here, and then head over to Buenos Aires, and then up to Paraguay, Bolivia again, down to Argentina and Chile again. So heading down to the Ushuaia in January next year. Christian Manchala, where are you living? How about you, Elgart? Are you in Bali or what? Some people might call me crazy, but when I make a sandwich, I put bananas in it. So bananas are sweet. Put some sriracha in it, spicy. Some meat, cheese, avocado for some healthy fats. It's a dope sandwich. How many of you guys are living in the States? I'm curious. I haven't been back to the States since I left 2022. For those that are joining now, I'm on the beach in Montevideo, and curious about people that are in the States specifically and what their plans are for the future. Things are really heating up here, They're really heating up, and it's definitely not a bad plan to have that plan B already at least thought about, right? A lot of people are doing research. People contact me all the time, mostly about Ecuador, to be honest. And I'm actually planning on doing another video about Ecuador, even though I'm not there right now, because I have so many close friends that are, right? Specifically Graf, of course. He potentially will be doing a live stream with me. So if you're interested in seeing that, just stay tuned, because that's our plan for possibly this week. sun's moving fast. Where are Ecuador? Where are Ecuador? I'm not sure what you're asking. Where in Ecuador are you asking? Like, where in Ecuador does Graf live? He lives in Cotacachi. It's a pretty sweet beach. Take a look. What do you think? This beach is called Los Pocitos, I think. Los Pocitos, like little water pits or something. I'm not sure what Pozos. Pozos like lake, I guess. We have where are Ecuador? They are not contained. I'm not sure what you're mentioning there. They're not contained. Are you talking about the crime? It's not contained. Ellen Wright says, hi Eric, how's it going? This is Ellen, your uncle's friend. Hey Ellen. So check out Montevideo here, capital city of Uruguay. Check it out. See that? People are having a blast, enjoying the end of summer. How was the weather in Oregon today, Alan? I wonder if Kevin is up. You guys wake up pretty late, huh? I suppose there's a pretty big time difference too, right? It's, what is it here? I forget the time. What is it? It's 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. So I think maybe there was a 5-hour time difference. I think maybe it's 4 with the time change in the States. This time, I'm not hanging out with my buddy. Last time you joined us, we were on the beach in Brazil. Well, now I'm on the beach in Uruguay. And having a good time. Weather is great here. Very mild winter. That's good. That's good. Yep. I'm enjoying the end of the summer here. This is kind of like the beginning of low season, because this part of South America gets very cold, or cold for South America, you could say. And not obviously like Minnesota cold where I'm from, but pretty epically cold compared to most of Brazil, tropical countries, because Uruguay is not tropical. It's subtropical. The entire country in the subtropics, and boy, you can definitely feel it from the tropical fruit. If you want tropical fruit, they have to import it all. Uruguay has no tropical area, so everything is imported from the tropics. And that is very expensive. I bought a papaya, a regular papaya that I usually buy in Brazil for $3, and Bolivia for 1 or 2, and Colombia and Ecuador for 1 or 2. Here it was 8. So you're paying for having those tropical delights. You just have to, I guess, get accustomed to the local stuff, which is more like temperate stuff, like I guess peaches and whatever. We'll see 70F this week. There you go. Things are picking up. Good news. Yeah, when I talked to my mom, she said it wasn't too bad in Minnesota as well. The weather is pretty good. So does anyone have any stories to share about researching any plan Bs? That's the topic that I chose for today, but I'm not sure who's on and where you're from. Let me know in the comments. We'll see 70 this week. So as I mentioned before, a lot of people, they do research and they go to channels like Nomad Capitalist and stuff like that. And yeah, that he has some good information. But it's definitely the scare you shitless sales pitch. I see that you are close to Buenos Aires. Is Montevideo like a resort area for Argentina? Well, Montevideo is the capital city. It's where the majority of the country lives. So to give you an idea, Alan, this country has 3.5 million, the entire country. My state, Minnesota, which is a pretty, low population state, is I think 5 or 6. So we have basically double the population of Minnesota than Uruguay has in the entire country. And the majority of the entire country is in Montevideo, is in this city here. I think it's 1.5 million here, which I think is close to the Twin Cities, MSP. I believe MSP has about 1 million. He includes Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the surrounding suburbs is about 1 million. So this is not like a resort town, you could say. The place people typically go to, like the luxury resort area of the country, is called Punta del Este, like the eastern point in English. And I haven't been there actually. I was planning to go there after I went to La Paloma, but decided to come back instead. Weather wasn't very good when I was there. So yeah, 1.5 million in this city, but I mean that's actually very small, Alan, because in Buenos Aires, that's one of the most populated cities in the Americas, right? North and South America. So I know Sao Paulo is in I think in 20 million or above. I think it's the most populated city in the Americas, Sao Paulo, 20 or 30 million. Buenos Aires is probably a bit above New York City. I think has a bigger population than New York City, so it's not, a small city by any means. It's a big one. I appreciate your boots on the ground. Yeah, thanks, Alan. I'm always trying to figure out the best way to make good videos. And to take advantage of my time here, because I only spend as much time as I decide in each place. Uruguay is a small country, so I wasn't planning on staying here that long. Furthermore, it's the most expensive. And I feel a lot of my audience is looking for high value places. I'm planning on making a video about my first impressions of this country. I was planning on doing that for days and days. But I just keep on getting busy or feel unmotivated. I feel unmotivated when I watch the AI channels. I'm not sure if you guys recognize the AI channels. Like there are people that make content that pretend to be relocation, like enthusiasts or relocation, like you could say experts or whatever, or just telling stories. There's a lot of fake story channels, and I see them everywhere on YouTube. They're huge. They're fake. They're fake people. Just they go generate a story about a fake person retiring abroad or living abroad, and they get super massive views. So sometimes when I watch them, I just lose all the energy I have to continue. Making content takes so much time and effort. Appreciate your boots on the ground. Seems a sunny day. It's literally midnight here. Chovelayo. Where are you, Chovelayo? Where are you at? I'm here at 3 p.m. So actually not long. The sun's gonna be behind this building behind me here. So I have some decent protection from the sun. It's pretty hot. Alan says, so my wife and I spent a month in Portugal considering to move there to retire. It was maravilhoso. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. You know, as long as you're okay with, you know, some kind of rising anti-American sentiment, you know, anti-foreigner sentiment there, you know, and specifically I think in Lisboa, the capital, has seen that. I see that, and you know, it's kind of similar to what Mexico City is dealing with, you know. So when you go to like really big expat hub places, you just need to have the right mentality. Like, okay, am I going to be welcomed by the locals? Are they going to be happy to see me, or will they see me kind of have a negative vibe? And Portugal and Spain are kind of going that direction right now. Portugal, Lisbon, I think specifically, and then in Spain, I believe it's one specific city is the worst than the rest. Barcelona, I think, I'm not sure. But I haven't been there, so I can't tell you guys what's actually happening. But that's the news. That's the buzz on the ground, right? Is that, you know, there's certain places where if you do go to these hubs, you know, you might get some kind of blowback, or at least you won't be super welcomed. You know, I feel like here, this is such a tiny country that if you are worried about that, this will be a good place to come to. A lot of people don't. I think a lot of people don't come here for many reasons. People don't come here for many reasons, and then as they do more research, some people say, okay, well, maybe this country is good. Maybe, you know, maybe the high price is worth a bit more development, because it is pretty developed, you could say. It is quite safe. So yeah, those are the things you have to keep in mind. It seems like Portugal has a lot of those as well, but just certain areas are not so welcoming. So yeah, if you're looking at relocating, living abroad, retiring abroad, that's a big factor, right? Factor is how the locals perceive you. I have buddies that are in Mexico right now, and they're basically constantly seeing a lot of kind of in the like Facebook groups and on social media, they see a lot of the locals kind of being, you know, pretty disrespectful, or you could say just not happy with the foreigners coming into Mexico, specifically Mexico City. So that's something to understand and to you know, accept, or at least recognize that not every place is going to be super inviting, right? Like, no. Yeah, I totally get. What do we got here? Sorry, I lost somebody. I got kind of fallen behind. So my wife and I spent a month in Portugal, considering to move there. Okay, yeah. But one of my wife's concerns was visiting our friends and family back in the USA. Alan, going back from Portugal is not a big deal. I mean, you have direct flights probably to the main hubs, right? Or you can just take a flight from Spain, take a cheap flight to England. I'm sure England has maybe more flights, you know, the bigger airport like Heathrow. So no, I think that's going to be the least of your concerns. You know, it'll just be expensive. It'll be expensive. I think maybe keeping in touch with family can be a bit complicated with the time difference. You know, like Portugal is, I don't know, 3-4 hours later or earlier than where I am. And like my girlfriend, for example, she's in China right now. It's a 13-hour time difference. So like, yeah, being able to talk is kind of complicated. So that would be something that, you know, making the effort to chat with people continuously and maintain that conversation, maintain that, you know, on WhatsApp or whatever. That, you know, will take a bit more juggling, you know, a bit more effort, but you can do it. Yeah, it's just more the cost part, you know. India. Don't know if you like the response though. The response of what? The response of India? India's good. Yeah, I mean, my buddies, many of my friends have gone. I haven't been to India. I went to the neighboring country, Sri Lanka. I was in Sri Lanka 2018. I had a blast there. I was there for 2 weeks during Chinese New Year because I worked in Vietnam. Had 2 weeks off, so I went to Sri Lanka. Had a good time there. Good food, very nice weather, nice people. Alan, yeah, I totally get the anti-tourist sentiment. Yeah, I think sentiment. I grew up in San Diego in the 70s. Even then, some of my friends were cursing the tourists. Yeah, that's kind of part of it. That's kind of part of the issue, right? That like where there's tourism, a lot of times people are not like very friendly. Barcelona is like one super good example. People see you as transient. They'll see you with your, huge budget. Tourists typically have a huge budget compared to locals, right? They'll see you with the big budget, taking up some of the best properties or whatever, and going to some of the nice restaurants or whatever. And yeah, so to be honest, I don't really like living in tourist cities. When you go to a place like, let's say, for example, Medellin. Medellin wasn't super touristy the first time I went, 2018, and I loved it. And the culture there is great, the food's great, people are super friendly. They were super friendly at the time, and it exploded after COVID. Now it's a super big hub, and for good reason. It's nice, it's a beautiful city, great place to live. But there's kind of anti-gringo, anti-foreigner sentiment that it's not very comfortable. So that's part of not only doing the boots on the ground yourself, right? Doing the scouting trip yourself, but doing some research into what places are like that, so you can kind of be aware before you go. Alan says, yeah, you're right. One of my daughters flew out for a week while we were there. I'm not sure are you mentioning flying from Portugal or what? So yeah, for all the people that are joining, I'm curious, what are your plan Bs if you live in the States? Alan already mentioned Portugal. Okay, yeah, Portugal. Yeah, so the flights, I'd say the main issue is just the cost. It's not that difficult to flight. You can get probably a direct flight from London to Chicago or something, and then Chicago home, or I'm not sure if there are direct flights from Oregon, but yeah, I'm sure that's not going to be a huge issue, really. It just depends on how often you want to go back. How often do you want, if you live abroad, how often would you go back? I think in general, people typically only go back home once a year, once, twice a year max, depending on the situation, of course, because like if you're still working, and you want to stay out of the tax system in the U.S., and after a full month in the U.S., then you're kind of in a federal tax system. So if you avoid that, if you stay for less than a month, then you can, have that benefit. So yeah, I think as many of the retirees I meet, in general, it seems like a lot of them go back once a year. So yeah, just think about how difficult it would be for you guys to go back once a year, perhaps maybe during the low season winter months that have shit weather. Just look into the prices for that, and how difficult it is, and I'm sure it wouldn't be as difficult as you're thinking. We went to 2023. It was inexpensive, but I think those days are gone. In Portugal, you're talking about? We went in March and avoided the tourist areas for the most part, right? Yeah, if you stay out of I think Porto is another one, Porto, and then Lisbon. I think those are kind of, actually my girlfriend just went there as well, and it was pretty expensive. I think Portugal, at least when I looked at prices for for accommodation, you know, hotels and stuff, those are the same prices here as Uruguay. Maybe, yeah, around the same price. $30, $40 minimum for everything. So, yeah, that's a huge part, obviously, that I try and show on my channel, is the real cost of living. You know, how much a basic lifestyle costs. That's kind of always the first thing that I do to research, right? How much would you need to just live a basic lifestyle and then build off from there, right? And then you can go to nicer apartments or nicer houses, nicer neighborhoods, going out to nicer restaurants, and then, you know, always, obviously the sky's the limit. You can spend as much as you want, but yeah. We were in Lole, Portugal. Okay. Never heard of that. It's like a French name almost. Matt Smith says, I'd rather like Michigan. You like Michigan, okay. Yeah. I have some friends from Michigan. Michigan's a pretty cool place. The Mitt. Or the UP. UP is actually really close to where I'm from. I'm from Minnesota, so I think it's right on the other side of Lake Superior. Right? In the middle of the Algarve. Heard of that? I haven't been to Europe besides, you know, the quote-unquote European side of Turkey, so that's not a very familiar spot for me. Not yet. I'll probably be heading to Europe or to Turkey if my girlfriend gets this new job at Turkish Airlines. She's in the hiring process right now, so we'll see how everything works out with that, you know, how things unfold in the Middle East. Yeah, I do like coming to the beach. It's nice. So when you said I rather like Michigan, is that where you live? Matt, you live in Michigan, or like that place? Like, are you moving there? Or what? It's a good place to be at this time of year because the sun's pretty hot still, but the air is very, very cool. Spinach out of my teeth. My sandwich. And yeah, so getting that hot sun, the cool air is nice. We got 8 people on right now. Have any of you guys been to Uruguay before? This is my first time. Enjoying it quite a bit. It's good. Pretty chill place. The language here is very interesting because it reminds me of like a very Portuguese style Spanish. Like they have like words that are the same in Brazil and Portuguese here. There's their type of Spanish, which, like for example, the bus in Spanish and most of Latin America, Spanish is bus, right? Or there's a million different ways to call it, right? But here they specifically have one that's called omnibus, and in Portuguese, that's the word for bus, omnibus. There it is. Interesting little fact, little tidbit for you guys. Who has been doing any research on places to move to besides Alan? anyone doing any research into places like in Latin America or in Europe? It's kind of interesting being able to do it live when, I do this entire trip like 95% myself. My girlfriend Natalie flies down or flies over and spends time with me, but I've been basically by myself this entire time, so putting up a live, interesting to be able to have some people to see what I'm seeing while I'm here. Pretty cool. I like that little part of technology where I can show people what's going on and have someone to yell at, talk at. Planes fly to Oregon too, Kevin says. Oh, Kevin. Big dog is on. Uncle Kev. What's up, Uncle Kev? I'm in Montevideo, but I don't have my boy, my brother, from a different mother, drinking beer with me. Well, I wasn't drinking beer, but he was drinking beer. This is the beach in capital of Uruguay, Montevideo. Planes fly to Oregon. You mean planes fly from where? Like from... Alan and I were talking about the planes coming in from Europe. I mean, I'm sure there are some planes, but how big of a hub is Oregon? I don't know. I've never been there, so I don't know. It's like the opposite side of the U.S., right? The furthest west, basically. I know LAX is a big hub. I can tell you what is essential for my wife and me. Plenty of bars and pubs for snacks and drinks with friends. Yeah, okay. So, pubs for snacks and drinks with friends. That's probably a good start, yeah. Portugal's probably a great start for that. Another thing you guys probably need to consider, which I'm sure you already have, is language. I mean, does your wife speak Portuguese? Do you speak Portuguese, Alan? Because, of course, people speak English all over the world, but obviously the percentage changes from place to place, right? Are you going to be in a place, like if you go into a really authentic place, the more authentic in general, the less they'll speak English, right? So, like, that's something you have to take into consideration, right? Like, if you want to go get out of the hubs, out of the tourist spots, then you'll get, lower prices. People will be more happy to see you, but you won't be able to speak English as much in general, right? Like, for example, I lived in Vietnam. I didn't speak Vietnamese. And if you do want to speak, like, their basic English with the locals, then, you pretty much have to go to specific spots, right? It's not too big. What's not too big, Kevin? The airport in Portland, right? That one's a small one. I think LAX is the big one. And then people would maybe take an internal flight from LAX. I gotta move here. So the sun's up here behind this palm tree, creeping on in. Slowly moving towards the water. Might end up swimming by the end of the day. Got the water right here. I learned some on our trip. So, Alan, your wife doesn't speak Portuguese either. Is that what's going on? I speak Brazilian Portuguese, right? So the Portuguese from the mainland, right? The OG Portuguese. I don't really like that accent very much, but yeah, I'm sure if you put enough effort into it, and you're really feeling like staying there for a long time, then it'll be worth it. The sun's going down this way, so I'll move a little over here. Sun, refugee from the sun. Black Swamp. Where are you now? This is Montevideo. The beach is called Los Pocitos. Los Pocitos, which I believe is a small, like, lakes or something, small ponds, but this is obviously the ocean. This is the open ocean going towards the estuary that is Rio de la Plata, the Silver River, it's called, and the water here is very brown. It's very brown. It's not as clear as it is if you go further out to the east. When I was in La Paloma, the water was quite a bit clearer. So I think the same thing in Buenos Aires. It is right next to the river estuary. It's like has a lot more like the sand and mud in the water, so it's browner. Yeah, where are you now? Kevin says Portland Airport. Yeah, I didn't think it was that big, but I'm sure, your neighbors Washington and LAX, those will be the easier ones to fly into, and then you could just take a short trip over. By the way, Brazilian Portuguese is way different than European Portuguese. Yes, I know. So when I learned Brazilian Portuguese, there was an exchange student from Portugal studying in Brazil, and I didn't understand anything he said. It was so difficult for me. And I meet people from Portugal from time to time. Yeah, they call it a closed Portuguese, a português fechado. So I'm sure there's some nice accents there, but I wasn't a big fan of the accent. Ellen, she only knows. Thank you. Obrigada. Uncle Kev, it is 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm just following the shadows of this palm tree as I sit here. Kind of enjoyed the afternoon. Just went to do a bit of a workout at the gym near my house. There's like 4 gyms. I'm a member of a gym here. That's another thing that I kind of plan my trip around the gyms, to be honest. Like this trip, besides like showing people a bird's eye view of what it's like to kind of be a foreigner here, and the costs of things and my experiences of what it's like to be an American, it's also like just gym hopping around Latin America. So I research where the gyms are, and then I reserve my apartments based on where the gyms are. So that's a big part of staying healthy, right? That's healthcare for younger people. Is kind of the gym is the main thing they need. And so 3 o'clock. Sun sets, I think, 6:37. So I think people start to really come out when the sun goes down, so it's really hot. The rays are pretty strong up until about 4 or 5. And it's 3:30 now. So we got how many? 9 people on right now. Where are you guys currently at? Besides, I know Uncle Kev and Alan are in Oregon. I think we have another person from India. A person maybe in Bali. Alan says, Google flights from PDX to Buenos Aires are like $1,400. We probably want to spend at least a month there. You're going down to Buenos Aires, Alan? Yeah, I mean, if you're spending that much on a flight, hopefully that's round trip 1. And 2, you definitely want to arrange a longer trip into that when it's that expensive, right? The longer the flight, the more expensive it is. Obviously, you want to make it worth the effort. That's a lot of effort. What would you recommend for lodging in Montevideo? Are you guys planning on coming here? When are you coming, by the way? Because it's slowly getting colder. Remember, it's the opposite seasons. So if you're coming from May, June, July, August, it's going to be cheaper, but it's going to be very cold. I mean, not very cold. It's probably going to be similar to Oregon's winter as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Montevideo, if you're coming for a couple days, there's a ton of hotels that are around the area. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to come to the beach like here, I'm not sure that's the right time of year if you come much later than than April. So you have to let me know when you're coming. So, and tell me what you're trying to do. That's kind of where you want to book your hotel, right? MC, how has the girlfriend been? Yeah, she's good. She's in Shanghai. We just talked this morning. She's in the process of getting hired to work in Turkey for Turkish Airlines. So that's throwing a curveball on her plans in China. She's in China right now doing like an internship for a short period of time while she's waiting to be hired by Turkish Airlines. So she's kind of handling that right now. And overall, she's loving China. She loves China, and she loves, she's a standard woman. She loves shopping, and that's like a shopper's paradise. You get all the good quality or decent quality stuff for like basically free. Super low cost. Everything, because they produce basically everything there. The factory of the world, especially with clothes. How was the girlfriend been? Yeah, that round trip, right? So $1,400, $700 each. Yeah, that's fine. Is it a straight direct flight from Portland to Buenos Aires? That's crazy. If that is, that's a really long flight, like super long flight. But yeah, that's awesome if that's the case. Oh, amazing! Right? Just keep in mind the weather. Like I said, it's end of the summer now, March. Now we're transitioning to fall, and I'm leaving this area of South America to go back north up to Paraguay for the summer, or sorry, for the winter. It's just too cold to be here during winter, and I prefer being in Paraguay. That's the best time of the year to be there. Paraguay, I've heard, is pretty rough in the summer, just way too hot, and the lowlands, and so I kind of planned part of this trip of going there at the best time of year. Talkable. Hi everyone, from Brandon by the Sea, Oregon. Oh, we got another Oregonian. Brandon by the Sea. Never heard of that place. Where is that, Uncle Kev? You gotta let us know. I don't really understand much about Portland or Oregon or any of that. Never been there. She retires in April. Are you talking about coming down to here to Buenos Aires in April? That's a good time to come. So this is the fall, right? And that's why I actually plan to come here to Montevideo, because one, this is the lower season. High season here, nothing's available, everything's overpriced. So for me, trying to find an apartment now is impossible. So I'll just come to Montevideo after the summer's done, which is March basically, like the end of summer, and then go to Buenos Aires, which is basically the same weather as here, to ride across the river or the ocean, the estuary. And that's going to be pretty perfect weather. Like the weather here is perfect right now. It's like at nighttime it's in the 60s, and in the daytime 70s and 80s. Yeah, it's perfect. High humidity because we're on the coast, but yeah, it's fantastic. And Buenos Aires, I believe, is going to be around the same from April until probably late May. It's going to be slowly getting colder every night. Mid 60s, maybe down to mid 50s by the end, or low 50s by May. So yeah, it's good weather for at least in Minnesota for me. For anyone that grew up with shit weather, really shit weather. She retires in April. Well, that's good. Congrats to your wife, Ellen. I'm happy for you guys. Time to explore. Time to do that. MC, how you plan the visa situations? Are the stays short enough to go visa free? Yeah, I don't have like long-term visas anywhere. I've never actually gotten a visa anywhere, even though I've lived abroad for 15 years of my life. I've never once gotten a visa. I'm the perpetual tourist, the perpetual digital nomad tourist, So I just go in, they give me whatever time as a tourist, and I stay and leave when I have to leave. And, it's not ideal in some countries. Like, it's a lot shorter than, like, for example, Peru. Sometimes they've been changing their policies a lot, but in Peru, I'd say you can only stay 90 days at a time. They don't even let you extend to 6 months, so you just have to go believe here is 90 days on my tourist. They call it tourist permit. A lot of people call it the tourist visa, but it's not actually a visa. But yeah, I mean, if I wanted to get a visa, I don't know. It have to be really easy, really cheap. And I had looked into Paraguay. I don't know if that's gonna. I haven't been there before, so I'm gonna see how Paraguay is when I go there. And if Paraguay is a really cool country, you know, there's a lot of foreigners living there. Like I'm contacting people on the expat groups, and there are so many foreigners, especially from Europe. A very interesting amount of Europeans are living in Paraguay from like from I don't know, from Poland, I think, from Denmark, or I don't know, Holland, or there's a lot of interesting countries I wasn't really expecting to see on these groups. So yeah, anyways, yeah, I don't get really visas since, you know, my bike, I have my motorcycle, so actually I plan my trip around my motorcycle permit. And sometimes when I research the permit, I'm not sure if I can extend the bike permit or how easy it is or all that stuff. So sometimes I just organize my trip. I arrange it to be shorter just in case, and I leave early just in case, because, you know, I prepare my accommodation generally at least 2 months in advance. This actually, I don't have a place after I'm going to be staying in Buenos Aires for all of April, but I normally plan about 3 months in advance. But kind of, you know, with my girlfriend, not sure when she's going to start working in Turkey, and if I'm going to visit her there and spend a bit of time in Turkey to kind of chill and get out of Latin America for a month or so. Who knows? So I haven't booked anything really in the next, well, after April. And it seems like there's a lot of options in May. You know, it's like low season in Argentina. Low season, you know, means there's a lot more opportunity, a lot more options at good prices. So, you know, you just need to make sure to book in advance. If you're doing a trip like me, you just book in advance when it's high season, and that's what I did in Brazil. Yeah, hold on. Check out the text here. Kevin, not sure it is. Is it by Brandon, or is it a different area? I don't know. Brandon 97411 south of Coos Bay. A friend of mine is from Coos Bay. Where are you? Are you asking me? I am in Montevideo on the beach. This is the capital city of Uruguay. And Los Positos is the name here. This is what the Uruguayans do. They come over here with their mate. They have their little gourd or their cup. A lot of them use like the ceramic cup. And they'll come over with their tea and their thermos, and they'll drink their afternoon mate at the sunset. I'm staying two blocks from the coast, or from the beach. This is a different beach. I wanted to try seeing a different beach, which is, I'll show you guys. That maybe some new people. This is it. Standard beach in the capital city, and I'm gonna head back to my apartment. Battery's actually getting kind of low, so I'll probably only stand here for another 20 minutes or so. So yeah, I'm in Positos in Montevideo. Eric, how far do you plan ahead? Yeah, I think I already answered that. So it's usually 3 months if it's high season where I'm going, and if it's low season, then I don't really have to plan more than 2 months. But if it's high season, 3 or 4 months. Like I think I got my apartment here in Montevideo, I think 4 months in advance, because you know, I found some good options. It kind of depends on the options as well. Sometimes there's not a lot of good options, so I'll wait for some new. I book on Airbnb always, so wait for new options, new accounts or new places to open up. You know, people love using Airbnb for money, so you know, sometimes they pop up out of nowhere and they get good deals. MC, I know people do border runs in Thailand. Is that the same thing with Peru to reset the clock? Yeah, Thailand, that's big. Vietnam, I did that in Vietnam for 5 years. That's just their system. I think people still do it, but I think it's a little bit less common in Vietnam now than it was before. So yeah, when you work there, you can get a certain visa and don't need to actually, or get the tourist stamp and just use that for your time. No, Peru. Okay, so there's two ideas on this. Peru technically does not allow you to extend the tourist permit. You can't stay a full 6 months in a row, but people do say that they leave the country, they spend a day or a couple days outside of Peru, like they go to Bolivia or Ecuador or Brazil or whatever, and then they come back and then they can get a new 90 days. So each time you come in, they give you 90 supposedly. But sometimes when people do that, they come back and they say, oh yeah, you just left, so we're only going to give you a week or a month, you know. Got some loud bikes coming by. Kind of crazy how people love just ripping through the streets here on loud bikes. On Sunday specifically. MC, I know people do border runs, yeah. So that's basically the gist of it. MC is that some countries it's very common, it's very easy to do, or even like it's the standard, right? Nicaragua, for example. If you watch Scott Allen Miller's channel, he talks about how that's the standard there, and it was for me in Vietnam as well. So you know when you go to these countries, you just have to go with the flow and figure out what their system basically encourages you to do, right? So if it's not necessary to get a visa to live there, if they want you to be there as a perpetual tourist, then fine, right? Like they'll eventually change the policies of the government to express that, to make you do what they want you to do, right? So like for example, Costa Rica seems to be doing that right now. They are giving people that seem to be the perpetual tourist, they're giving them less time when they come back, or they're basically telling them, hey, you know, you're gonna need that visa next time or whatever. Give them less time, so then they start thinking about, okay, well, I guess this is not a good option anymore. Yeah. Oh, #Heezy, that's a name. Ooh, you won't be too far from Colonia del Sacramento. I'm going to be going there to send my bike on the ferry to Buenos Aires. Gasoline here, for all of you guys that haven't seen any of my stories on social media. Gasoline here. A gallon of gas for my bike is $7.60. No, it hasn't jumped up because of the war. That's just the price here. So when I went to go do an interview 3 hours from here, I drove 3 hours to this beach town and 3 hours back. The gas for that by itself was $40. $40. Which is crazy on a motorcycle, right? And there was, I think, 4 or 5 tolls that I didn't have to pay that were free. So that's just the cost of living here in Uruguay. If you have a car and plan to be doing trips, a lot of people buy the electric automobiles, electric cars, because, you know, charging it up and paying for electricity is far, far, far cheaper than the gas. $7.60 a gallon. It's crazy, right? Would you consider moving to Turkey to be with her? Seems kind of impossible to date that far of a distance on a long time scale. Huh. Yeah, that is a good question. You know, she's a pretty flexible person, and I'm pretty flexible. And since we've, you know, been dating, we've been kind of just taking advantage of, you know, going to see each other when we can. And yeah, so it's not easy for me to say or give any ideas about it, because she hasn't even gotten the job yet. So if she gets the job, then I'll have to think about that a bit more deeply. But since it's still not a surefire thing, right? We don't even know if she will get through the hiring process and she'll be hired, let's say now or in a year, who knows? So there's a lot of factors that go into it. So, but yeah, I mean, living in Turkey would be great. After I finish this entire project with Latin America, depending on if my content is helping people and I'm able to continue making content and it's worth my time and my effort, which sometimes I feel like it's not from all the saturation of this type of these videos, relocation videos, the cultural videos, especially like telling stories and like helping you guys see what other people are living, what their lives are like here with my interviews. There's fake interviews online, and the more I see those fake interviews, the less I feel like if people keep on getting tricked by AI, like, well, how am I supposed to compete? I don't know. It's a hard answer to give when there's so many factors that I don't know about. Will I continue the channel? Like after I finish this trip, I just, I like doing the videos. I like making content. I like being able to show you guys, show my family, show anyone that, living in Latin America is easier and in many ways better than you probably would think. And, I'm discovering that myself here in Uruguay. I've never been here. I might be complaining about it a little bit, but overall it's a great place. And it's definitely the right place for some people. If you have the right budget, you want certain things, like, each country has its own benefits, right? And one of the main benefits here is the stability, less fears about crime. So again, I mean, Brazil is famous for being dangerous, but it's in a country that's basically the size of the U.S. You wouldn't say that the U.S. all of the U.S. is dangerous because Washington D.C. like one area of Washington D.C. is super dangerous, right? So that's just how it is. Kind of forgot what I was talking about, but Kevin, are those hotels behind you or apartments? These are apartments. Yeah, I don't know of any hotels here because I don't see any signs for them. I think they're mostly just residential buildings. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're nearly all residential. I don't think Montevideo is that big of a tourist place. I think people come here and they go to like more of the smaller beach towns, perhaps in the summer as well. So not specifically a city people come here to spend a bunch of time. So I don't think there's a lot of hotels, but I'm sure there are a couple. I just can't see any signs for them. You would think there would be like, oh, whatever, American or whatever, like on the top. I don't see any. You put Eric on the spot. Right, Alan? Well, it's good. It's a fair question because, long distance relationships are difficult. But that's kind of what me and Natalie have been doing since we met. It's been pretty much long distance from the beginning. So I think kind of we're both flexible enough and we like each other enough to make it work. Alan, you keep on writing like Chinese or something. I don't understand. What's that Chinese stuff that I keep on saying? Like a little A with an X with a hat. Shaped rochas. Are you still in Brazil? No. This is Uruguay. Montevideo. I've been here since the first. My visa, or my tourist permit, expired on the 2nd. So I made my way out. I'm just gonna look at you guys straight up. I don't know why I'm looking to the side. Yeah, my tourist 90 days was up on the 2nd, so I kind of was a bit late on that one. I left on the 1st, but I like to usually get out a couple days before my permit, my bike permit, and my visa or my tourist permit expire. So basically the countries that give, like, for example, I'm given 90 days here, I'm only going to spend like 30, 31. I don't always stay the entire time, but if I like the country enough, especially if it's a place where I feel like I can do a lot of good work, good, recording and such, then I'll stay longer. And of course, if I like it, if I think it's worth my time. For example, Colombia, I actually spent a lot of time in Colombia, and I didn't even record half the time. I was just kind of getting caught up on a lot of the videos I've made in the past. Still in Brazil, which city you like the most in Brazil for living and remote working and dating? Well, I don't date in Brazil, right, James? I have a girlfriend. I think we've been chatting about her on the stream for a while, but she's not in Uruguay right now. It's a long distance relationship. But okay, what city you like the most in Brazil for living and remote working? Well, I think Florianopolis has always been my top favorite. It's just a super beautiful place. Very, very safe. I was there, for the month of February. Had a great time. And now I'm going to be going back to Brazil and showing some places there. But I feel like a lot of people, especially like the retirees, don't look at Brazil as like any possible option of retirement, which I think I've yet to meet a couple that have moved down that aren't dating or married to a Brazilian. A lot of people that I did do some interviews there, and all of them, besides an English guy that was married to a Colombian, all of them were married to a Brazilian, a man or a woman. So overall, yeah, the wind is hitting the mic pad. Yeah, I didn't bring my mic. I can go grab it on my bike, but I have to go. Let me know if it stays bad. I'll go grab the mic. Which city you like living in remote working? So remote working, James, I barely had any issues living and working anywhere in Latin America. Besides maybe Bolivia, where the speeds were super slow. It was literally impossible to get better speeds. Pain in the ass. Because their infrastructure is shit. They didn't invest in the options to be able to upgrade and to get better internet. So, remote working in practically all of Latin America is very, very, very doable. I'm trying to think if I had any other issues. I don't think I had anywhere else. Colombia had amazing internet. Nicaragua had amazing internet. Places where you would think it wouldn't, it did. El Salvador, great internet. Here it's very good. Brazil, yeah, and Brazil in the past was, when I first worked there, I worked in Brazil online. When I first started working full-time online in 2018, the internet was terrible. But that was probably just terrible everywhere in the world, for most places. Except for Asia. Asia, it's always been good. I lived in Asia in 2012, and it's been amazing since 2012. It was already amazing at that time. So anyway, dating, James, depends on what you want. I think a lot of people, they might go to big cities, and if you're single, and especially, I don't know, like, you could probably find people to date, but they might not speak English or whatever, so it depends on if you speak the language. If you only speak English, then you're going to be, looking at a tiny group of girls that will be able to join, or to meet up with you and go on dates with you and whatnot. It's probably an emoji. Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I saw like a weird Chinese MC. Do you have a lot of free time being a digital nomad? Do you have a lot of different hobbies to keep you busy? Yeah. Kevin says I'm going to sign off. Love you. Love you too, Kevin. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming on. MC, yeah. I mean, it really depends on what your job is. And, I luckily have a job that allows me to do a lot of work on my channel, because the channel is like insanely time consuming. And without that extra time, I probably wouldn't, pay someone to help me, because I just, don't really see it turning into a huge money maker, right? Like, I do get tiny amounts of money for ads. when you see the ads on YouTube, you're watching a video, like I'll get a tiny bit of that. But overall, here, where's the wind? I'm gonna try and get you guys out of the wind. Let me know if this is good for you. I should be in front of the camera now. Like, yeah, the job I have, so I work online teaching. So depending on what kind of job you have, like it just depends on how many hours you work, right? So if you work a job that's 8 hours a day, you know, at a desk in your room or in your apartment or whatever you're doing, then, you know, you're not going to be able to see as much as me. Like, I have a lot of extra time off compared to the average person, I think. So yeah, the job I have teaching is, you know, I can choose how much I want to work, and you know, based on my finances, based on how much I've saved, what I want to earn, then I can kind of adjust based on that. So for remote work, you know, there's a million different things to do, so I can't really comment about most of the jobs. I think very few people do my job, do the teaching thing, because it's just a kind of a unreliable and usually a low-paying job. So yeah, take with that what you will, but yeah, depending on your job, that's going to be a big factor. But yeah, I have a lot of extra time, and I use that for the channel. I use that for editing. I use that for recording. I use that for planning people to visit, you know, and planning for my future accommodation. You know, where I'm going to be staying, who I'm going to be interviewing, and city I'm going to be staying in, and you know, just a lot of stuff. I just spend a lot of time researching really. And yeah, the other thing is going to the gym. Go to the gym every day, so that's another big part of my daily schedule. And yeah, guys, if you're liking this chat, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate all that. You know, the support for showing up and saying hi. James asks again, thanks. Did you find the southern Brazilian people kind of racist? Curious. Well, I look a lot like most of the southern Brazilians because I'm very European. So people didn't even know I was foreign until I started speaking Portuguese, and they're like, okay, you're clearly not from here. But they thought I was Argentinian, even though, you know, whenever I speak, people are like, hey, you speak our language, but you're not from here. So they just think of a place nearby and they say that. So in Brazil, I was always Argentinian. And here in Uruguay, sometimes they ask if I'm Italian or something. So, racist, I mean, they weren't super friendly in the South. No. But I wouldn't say racist. I don't know if it's racism or if it's just that the culture, with the European style culture, it's a little bit more closed, a bit more, you know, thinking about yourself and worrying about your own situation. So, you know, that's kind of the attitude, you know, you'll see in like places with German influence in the U.S. that I'm from Minnesota, or super like classically cold, you can say, like a cold culture type of thing. And yeah, let me know if the wind, I'm trying to block off the wind with my back, it's coming at my back. Yeah, so I don't know, I wouldn't call it racist. I would say just the culture is more like European, Germanic, less inviting, less, you know, I want to be your friend and, you know, talk to you. Like, that's more of like the southeast going north, you know, like in the southern region, they're pretty reserved, you can say. That's a better word for it. They're reserved, and in some cases, kind of unfriendly to foreigners. Like, when I was in Blumenau, I had problems with like quite a few local people just like kind of treating me like shit. I was pretty surprised by how incredibly unfriendly they were to me sometimes. You know, I speak Portuguese, and I'm clearly not from there, so like, you know, and in a place with like very little tourism, generally the locals are very friendly, and that was the opposite. That was the opposite of what happened. So yeah, that's I would be looking for MMA and BJJ classes. So MMA is mixed martial arts and BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Yeah, so I'd say, actually, yeah, Florianopolis would be a good option for UMC. I think the guy that I interviewed when I was in Florianopolis from England, he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or maybe it's Muay Thai. Anyways, there's a lot of different options for doing the types of martial arts and exercise there. Gotta sign off to meet Kevin at the gym. Going to the gym, huh? Pumping up at Alan. Look at you. Look at you. Yeah, well, have fun. Thanks for showing up, Alan. Props to you for saying hi. And I'm glad you guys were able to chat a bit. I'm happy to hear about you going to Portugal and possibly retiring there. Let me know if you end up flying down to Buenos Aires, because I will be in Buenos Aires all of April. So if you do end up going there, I don't know when your wife is retiring, but I will be there. I will be there. Perhaps 2 months. Definitely 1 month. I've heard mixed things about Buenos Aires. And since the new president, Milei, has made it pretty unaffordable, or way less affordable for foreigners with USDs. So, yeah, Buenos Aires was not cheap for Airbnb. So we'll see how the other prices are. I've heard it's quite a bit cheaper than Uruguay. So we'll see. YOLO Frank, planning a trip to Lima soon. What are some places you recommend to eat and do, huh? Well, it depends on your budget. Depends on what you like. Depends on when you're going. Right? Lima has shit weather in the winter, which in general, in the tropics, if you go to the mountains, the weather is perfect. In the winter, Lima on the coast is not. It's terrible. So I definitely do not recommend going between May and September. So it depends on when you're going. If you're going in the summer-ish times, like now before May, I guess March, April. If you want, I don't know if the weather's still going to be warm enough for the beach. If you want to go to the beach, there's places nearby that you can go to, but not in Lima, to have like some fun on the beach. In Lima, you won't have good enough weather for that. Yeah, like Huacachina, for example, the Oasis is like an hour or two from there. So you could potentially, I'm going to move right here, make sure that the wind's not too hard. You could potentially go to Huacachina, but yeah, in Lima, I would say get the seafood dishes, like the trio marino, like the seafood dishes. Either local places have amazing food. There's Barranco has like, right now, like, I think considered one of the top restaurants in the world. So if you want to spend huge bucks, I think it's like $200 or $300 for a meal there, for like a 10-course meal. You can go to do that in Lima. You have to book online, but that's an option if you want to, if you want to baller out. And yeah, I mean, in Lima, if you've never been there before, you can just check out the local places, like the downtown area. It's kind of very beautiful. You can go to, a lot of people go to Miraflores, right? You can walk around Miraflores. There's a mall to check out there. I can't remember the name, but that mall is like right on the coast, right on the edge of the city. Yeah, it really depends. You'd have to kind of look into what you're trying to do there, and what kind of food and budget you're trying to spend. But overall, yeah, Peru, outside of Lima at that time, if you end up going from May to September, you can still go to the cities nearby, and there's going to be good weather also. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. I think I'm seeing some people with some beer. I don't think you're allowed to drink beer here legally in public. Pretty sure it's not allowed, but I see people doing it from time to time. It's not like Brazil. Brazil has the open container national law. There's some like parts of some cities that will say no drinking in this specific park or something. Like I saw that in Blumenau, or not Blumenau, near Blumenau. Colombia has that as well. Oh, you can drink anywhere at any time, you know, open container. But they have strict driving rules, right? So 0 tolerance. I never drink and drive because that's too super high risk for me. Yeah, I think she's drinking beer. Looks like a beer. And that's kind of the sad part about going to a beach, you know, and not being able to drink a beer on the beach. Like, come on, what you doing here, right? Can't drink a beer on the beach. I do have a beach right in front of my house, so if I want to drink, I can typically just go there. Battery's getting kind of low, so I'm gonna have to sign off pretty soon. Yeah, look at this. This is the Montevideo. Los Positos Beach. Even drink a beer on the beach without worrying about it. Yeah, it's too bad. Well, since my phone is running out of battery, I'm just going to call it quits here. I'm going to go home and have myself a late lunch. You could call it, I guess, an early dinner. And yeah, sign off. It was good chatting with everyone. Thanks for joining. Hasta la próxima.